I just wanted a break, a day off from the greasy plates, the fake smiles, and the aching feet. I never imagined that wish would lead me to love, luxury, and a man who changed my entire world. This isn't just a love story, it's the story of how everything changed. Before we dive into the wildest twist my life has ever taken, don't forget to hit that like button, subscribe for more real life love stories, and turn on that bell so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you'll want to stay until the end of this one. I'm from a small town just outside Atlanta, one of those places where everyone knows your name, but not your story. I grew up with hardworking people all around me, and I learned early that if you wanted anything in life, you had to earn it with your own two hands. That's exactly what I was trying to do. Earn it, every single day. I worked at this old school diner right off the highway, the kind with sticky menus, constant coffee refills, and regulars who felt more entitled than kind. I'd wake up before the sun, tie my apron tight, and head in for the breakfast rush. The shifts were long, loud, and thankless. People snapped fingers, called me sweetheart like I didn't have a real name, and barely left a tip, if they left one at all. My feet would scream by lunchtime, and by the time I clocked out, my whole body felt like it had been hit by a truck. But I kept going, not because I loved it, but because I didn't have a choice. Rent was due, groceries didn't pay for themselves, and dreams? They felt like a luxury I couldn't afford. Still, deep down, I kept wishing for just one day, one quiet, peaceful day to breathe, to feel like more than just the girl behind the counter. I didn't want a mansion or millions. I just wanted a break, a moment to feel like I mattered. I'd sit on my porch after those long shifts, legs stretched out, eyes closed, imagining a different life. Just a small pause from the hustle. I didn't know it then, but that one wish, that one tiny, tired wish, it was about to change everything in ways I never could have seen coming. It was raining that morning, not just drizzling, pouring. The kind of rain that makes you want to crawl back into bed and pretend the world doesn't exist. But I didn't have that luxury. I was already running late, and the diner didn't wait on anyone. So I threw on my sneakers, wrapped my hair in a scarf, and ran through puddles to catch the bus. By the time I got to work, I was soaked, cold, and already on edge. As soon as I pushed through the diner doors, I knew it was going to be one of those days. The line was long, the coffee machine was broken, again, and my manager gave me that look. You know the one, the "you're lucky to even have this job" look. I mumbled an apology, tied on my apron, and got to work. I was bussing tables when I first saw him. He was sitting in the corner booth by the window, the only dry spot in the whole place, calmly sipping his coffee like he didn't have a care in the world. He was wearing a crisp gray suit, tailored to perfection, and carried this air about him, like he didn't belong in a greasy spoon diner, but didn't seem to mind being there either. I didn't pay him much attention at first. I had regulars to deal with, toast burning, and a kid who knocked over a whole glass of orange juice. Just another day, but every time I looked over, he was just watching. Not in a creepy way, but curious, calm, like he saw something in me that even I didn't see. I finally walked over to his table, notebook in hand, and before I could even get a word out, he looked up at me and smiled. "Rough morning?" he asked, like he already knew the answer. I let out this tired little laugh and said, "You could say that." I didn't expect him to care, but something about the way he looked at me, soft eyes, like I mattered, stayed with me. I didn't know who he was, just thought he was some kind stranger passing through. But that day, that one rainy morning, would become the start of a story I never saw coming. I remember my hands were shaking just a little, not from nerves, but from the cold and being overwhelmed. I walked over to his table, ready to take his order like I'd done 1,000 times before. I wasn't expecting much. Just another customer, another order, another face I'd forget by the end of the shift. But right as I reached his booth, my elbow nudged the edge of the coffee pot and a few drops splashed on the table, right near his sleeve. I gasped, apologizing quickly, grabbing napkins like my life depended on it. I waited for the usual reaction, some sigh, a roll of the eyes, or a sarcastic comment. That's what I was used to. But he just chuckled. "I've had worse mornings," he said, brushing it off with the kind of smile that immediately softened my nerves. "You look like you've been through a storm, and I don't just mean the weather." That line caught me off guard, not just because it was true, but because someone actually noticed. I stood there for a second, blinking back the exhaustion that was starting to show on my face. Then I laughed, just a small one, and said, "Yeah, it's been a week, and it's only Tuesday." He looked up from the menu and asked, "When's the last time you had a day off?" I blinked. A day off? I couldn't even remember. I half joked, "When I win the lottery, maybe." He smiled again, but this time it was different, like he was thinking about something. I took his order, wrote it down quickly, and walked away without thinking much of it. When he left, I went to clean up the booth and found a folded napkin under his coffee cup. Inside was a $500 tip and a handwritten note. It said, "Take the day off. You've earned it." For a second, I thought it was a joke. Or maybe he left it for the wrong person. But no, my name was on the note. He had asked it during our short chat and somehow remembered. I stood there in the middle of the diner, soaked socks, tired eyes, holding more money in my hand than I made in a week. And something shifted in me. I didn't know it yet, but that moment, it was the beginning of something I'd never dared to dream. At first, I didn't believe I should take the money. I kept staring at it, turning the note over in my hand like it might vanish if I blinked too hard. I showed it to one of the other waitresses, and she just whistled low and said, "Girl, if someone wants to give you a blessing, don't question it. Just say thank you." So, for the first time in months, maybe years, I took a real day off. I called in the next morning, half expecting guilt to eat me alive. But you know what? It didn't. It felt right. Like maybe I actually deserved to rest. I didn't do anything fancy. No spas, no trips. Just me, my favorite hoodie, and the quiet hum of a day without demands. I went to the park down the street with a coffee in hand that I didn't have to make. I sat under this big old oak tree and let the breeze wash over me. It was so simple, but it felt like the whole world slowed down for me, for once. And while I was sitting there, I kept thinking about him, about his eyes, his voice, that note. Who was he? Why me? Why that day? It was like the universe cracked open for a minute and gave me a glimpse of something bigger, something kinder. I went back to work the next day, feeling lighter than I had in ages. And just like clockwork, there he was again. Same booth, same suit, same calm smile. I walked over and raised an eyebrow at him. "You again?" He grinned. "I had a feeling you'd be back." I laughed, a real one this time. Not forced, not tired, real. After I refilled his coffee, he said something that stopped me in my tracks. "How was your day off?" I paused, looking him right in the eye. "Honestly, the best day I've had in a long time." He nodded, satisfied, then looked down at his cup like he was holding back more. Before I could walk away, he added, "Next time, maybe you'll let me join you." I didn't know what to say, but my heart knew exactly how it felt. Something had begun. After that second meeting, things started to shift. He came in like clockwork, same booth, same smile, always dressed like he'd just stepped out of a magazine. But somehow, he never made me feel small. He didn't act like he was above anyone. He always asked how I was doing, really doing, and he actually listened when I answered. No fake small talk, no pretending. One evening, right after my shift ended, he waited outside the diner. It had started to drizzle again, but there he was, standing under a street lamp like a scene from a movie. He offered me his umbrella, and I laughed. You just walk around handing out umbrellas now? He shrugged with that same easy smile. Only to waitresses who deserve more than rain and rude customers. That was the night we had our first real conversation, outside the diner, with no aprons or menus between us. We went to a little cafe nearby, nothing fancy, just warm and quiet. I learned his name, Cameron, and I found out he wasn't just a businessman. He was the businessman, owned multiple properties, startups, investments I couldn't even pronounce. But he didn't talk like a billionaire. He talked like a man who had seen the world but still remembered what struggle felt like. I asked him why he kept coming to the diner when he could eat anywhere. He said, "Because you smile even when you're tired. Because you remember people's names. Because you deserve to be seen." I didn't know how to take that. No one had ever spoken to me like that before. I was used to being overlooked, brushed past, dismissed. But he looked at me like I was something rare, like I mattered. Over the next few weeks, we talked more. Sometimes for 10 minutes on my break, sometimes over dinner after work. We shared stories about childhood, family, pain, and dreams we were too scared to say out loud. With him, I didn't have to pretend. I didn't have to be strong all the time. I felt like someone had finally peeled back the layers and seen the real me. And instead of walking away, he stayed. It had been a few months since that rainy morning. By then, Cameron had become a regular part of my life. Quietly, steadily, like a soft song that plays in the background until you realize you've memorized every word. He still showed up at the diner, always at the same booth, always asking about my day before placing the same order. But it wasn't about the food. It was never about the food. One day, he asked me to come with him to a formal event, some fancy business gala uptown. At first, I laughed. I mean, me in that world? I didn't own anything remotely close to what you'd wear to a billionaire's party. The thought of standing next to people in glittering dresses and tailored suits made my stomach twist. I told him I wouldn't fit in. But he just looked at me and said, "You already do." The way he said it, calm, sure, without blinking, made something shift in me. A part of me that always kept a wall up, lowered it just a bit. So I said yes. The night of the gala, I stood in front of my mirror, wearing a dress he had gifted me. Simple, elegant, deep emerald green. When I walked into that ballroom on his arm, every eye turned. I could feel the glances, the curiosity. Some were surprised, some judged. But Cameron, he held my hand like I was royalty, like I belonged exactly where I was. He introduced me to CEOs, politicians, celebrities even, and every time he said proudly, "This is the woman who reminds me what real strength looks like." That night, we stepped out onto the balcony for some air. The city lights stretched for miles below us. I looked up at him, unsure of what I had to offer someone like him. He leaned close and said, "You think you're just a waitress, but when I look at you, I see a woman who never gave up, who keeps showing up no matter how hard life gets. That's the kind of woman I want by my side." It wasn't just the words. It was the way he meant every single one. And in that moment, I realized this wasn't just kindness anymore. It was love. After that night at the gala, something changed between us. It wasn't just a spark anymore. It was a flame, steady and warm. Cameron didn't sweep me off my feet in a dramatic movie-type way. No, he did it gently, through quiet actions, thoughtful words, and consistency I'd never known before. He showed up every time. We started spending more time together outside the diner. He'd pick me up after work with takeout and a playlist full of old school R&B. We'd eat in the car, laugh about our day, and talk about life, real life. I told him about my mom, how she worked 2 jobs to raise me, how I always wanted to open my own cafe one day, a cozy spot that felt like home, where people could be seen and cared for, something I never really had growing up. I told him I didn't have the money, or the time, or, honestly, the belief that it could really happen. He didn't try to fix it right away. He didn't throw money at me or act like he had all the answers. He just listened. And then, slowly, he started helping me believe it was possible. He brought me books on business, helped me make a rough plan, sat with me for hours talking about branding, location, and marketing like my dream was just as important as any of his own. One night, while we were walking through the city, he stopped and said, I could help fund it, if you'll let me. But I hesitated. I didn't want to feel like I owed him, like I was just another charity case. He looked me dead in the eyes and said, I'm not helping you because I pity you. I'm helping you because I believe in you and because I love you. Love. That word felt so big, so powerful, but hearing it from him, it felt safe, like home. That's when I knew it wasn't just about the money, or the day off, or even the fancy gala. It was about 2 people who saw something real in each other and chose to build something beautiful from it. Love didn't find me when I was ready. It found me when I was real. Looking back now, I realize everything I thought I knew about love, about life even, was so small compared to what it's actually become. I used to think love was for people who had it all figured out, for women who wore heels and lipstick every day, not tired waitresses with sore feet and rent due. But Cameron, he saw me in my lowest, realest form, and still chose me. I used to believe I had to be everything for everyone just to be enough. I thought rest was weakness, that dreams were just fairy tales people like me couldn't afford to chase. But love, real love, helped me see that being strong doesn't mean doing it all alone. Sometimes strength is letting someone in, letting yourself be loved without fear. I still remember the first day I held the keys to my own cafe. Small, warm, tucked between a flower shop and a bookstore. My little slice of the world. Cameron was right there beside me, not just smiling but proud. Not because he gave me something, but because I did it. He always made sure I knew that it was my dream, not his rescue mission. And the customers? They come in, they feel seen. That's what I wanted. A place where no one feels invisible, where every waitress is treated with kindness, where people are reminded that sometimes the most extraordinary love stories begin in the most ordinary places. Now, when it rains, I smile, because I think of that morning, of how life turned in the blink of an eye. All I wanted was one day off, just a single moment to breathe, and in return, life handed me a love so deep, so patient, and so true, it changed the entire course of my story. So, if you're out there, worn out, wondering if life ever gives you a break, hear this. Sometimes the blessing shows up in the form of a stranger. Sometimes love walks in while you're covered in coffee stains and fighting back tears. You just have to believe, even a little, that you're worth being seen. Because you are. You always have been. I thought I just needed a break, but the universe had something bigger waiting for me. Love, purpose, and someone who saw me beyond the apron. If you believe in real love and second chances, hit that like button, subscribe, and share this story. You never know who might need to hear it today.